Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
Greg Gutfeld did what he does best. He exposed the absolute nonsense that spills out of The View daily. While the ladies of The View sit around pretending to be experts on everything from science to politics, Greg calls them out. And it's always hilarious. Seriously, watching The View try to talk about real issues is like watching a dog try to drive a car. It's a disaster every single time. Take their latest embarrassment, trying to explain a solar eclipse. Now, most people with basic knowledge understand that an eclipse happens when the moon moves in front of the sun. Seems simple, right? Well, not for The View. Sunny Hostin, in all her wisdom, suggested that maybe, just maybe, the eclipse was caused by climate change.
Would maybe lead one to believe that, either climate change exists, or something is returning.
Apparently, the moon must have gotten the memo about carbon emissions and decided to get involved. Greg couldn't let this go.
That's not what I read.
He mocked, shaking his head at how someone with a law degree could be this clueless.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works.
He's right. How do you make it through life, through law school, and onto national television without knowing that the moon is responsible for an eclipse? But no, according to The View, maybe the moon itself is suffering from global warming. Someone should get it a solar panel, and that's just one example. Sunny Hostin, the queen of playing the victim while living a life that most people could only dream of. She spent years lecturing America about race, privilege, and injustice, all while sitting in her mansion, too busy to even step foot in a grocery store. During a View segment, she proudly admitted that she hadn't been to one in 3 years.
I've been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart. And I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and so that's been an issue, I think, for the company.
While regular Americans were dealing with empty shelves, price hikes, and shortages, Sunny was lounging at home, clicking on pictures of fancy lettuce and having someone else bring it to her. And of course, she just had to mention that she tips well. Because nothing says, "I'm relatable," quite like bragging about how much money you give your workers. Here's what Greg had to say.
She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
Greg wasn't buying it. Oh, the oppression, he mocked.
I wonder if she wiped down the groceries herself or had her maid do it. She tips her too. Sure, lots of people started getting their groceries delivered during COVID.
And that's the thing. She actually thought this was a relatable story. She genuinely believed that regular people would hear her say, "I haven't been to a grocery store in 3 years," and think, "Wow, Sunny, you're just like us." Greg completely ruined her self-proclaimed act of heroism by tipping, saying,
"Oh, I give those poor people a big tip for scurrying around gathering food for me and hauling it to my mansion. Yeah, thanks for the $20, lady. That's good for 2 to 3 gallons of gas so I can get back home to my kids who are having bologna sandwiches for the 9th night in a row for dinner and urinal cakes for dessert."
Meanwhile, most people were struggling to pay for basic necessities. And Sunny was complaining about, what exactly? The convenience of home delivery? Oh, the suffering. Greg summed it up perfectly.
These elites are so isolated, they've forgotten that most Americans don't get paid to sit in a comfy chair pontificating about everything all day.
But let's get back to Sunny and her love for playing the victim. She constantly talks about oppression, about how unfair the system is, about how hard life is for people like her. And then, one day, reality smacked her right in the face. She went on PBS's Finding Your Roots, probably expecting to find some tragic, painful history that would reaffirm her status as a victim. Instead, she found out that her ancestors weren't just victims, they were slave owners. Oh, the irony. The moment the news was revealed, you could see the confusion on her face. She mumbled,
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
She tried to spin it, but the best she could come up with was,
I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Oh, so now slavery is just a fact of life? Interesting. If this had been about someone else, Sunny would have gone on a 20-minute rant about privilege and reparations. But because it was her family, suddenly it wasn't a big deal. Greg had a field day with this one.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune.
He pointed out knowing full well that if the situation were reversed, Sunny would never let it go. But when it's about her privilege, suddenly there's nothing to discuss. And then there's her husband. Greg called this out too when he said,
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, it's obviously from her husband.
And honestly, it makes sense. She just repeats whatever makes her sound woke, injecting race into conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with it. Why? Because she knows that if people focused on class instead of race, they'd realize that she's one of the rich elites she constantly complains about. Greg wasn't having it.
It's a class thing. And it's why she plays the race card so often. So you don't notice it's a class thing. Her life stinks of classism.
He said, exposing her for exactly what she is, a millionaire who hides behind social justice talking points to avoid admitting how privileged she really is. And yet, she sits on The View every day, acting like she's better than everyone else, pretending she has all the answers. But guess what? She doesn't, and Greg Gutfeld, he sees right through her. So before moving on to Greg's iconic response to Sunny and her view, subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an opportunity to laugh at liberals. While The View continues to embarrass itself daily, Greg's show is crushing it in the ratings. Why? Because people are tired of listening to rich, out-of-touch elites like Sunny lecture them about problems they don't even understand. Greg put it best.
It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
The View is nothing but a bunch of clueless, privileged women pretending to be experts on everything. And Sunny Hostin? She's just the worst of the bunch. And this is why Greg Gutfeld is winning. Because unlike Sunny and her co-hosts, he actually knows what he's talking about. And even when he doesn't, at least he's funny about it.
Say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose.
At the end of the day, people don't want lectures, they don't want fake outrage, they don't want someone like Sunny Hostin telling them how to live. They want someone who actually gets them, someone who isn't afraid to make fun of the nonsense coming from The View. And that's what Greg does best. While Sunny and the rest of The View ladies whine about the world, Greg makes people laugh at how ridiculous they are. That's why his show is destroying traditional late-night TV in the ratings.
And one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
Because let's face it, if your only options are watching Greg Gutfeld roast Sunny Hostin or watching Sunny Hostin lecture the world about oppression while sitting in her million-dollar home, it's not a hard choice. And the best part? The View knows they're losing. They know they're a joke. And that's why they can't stand Greg Gutfeld. Because no matter how hard they try to convince people they're the smart ones, Greg is always there to remind everyone just how dumb they really are. Here is how he summarized Sunny's mentality.
But maybe one day when we finally strip away this phony race war, it will finally expose this elite mentality. And we'll find out Sunny is just like Marie Antoinette, except she says, "Let me eat cake."
So, what are your thoughts on Greg's response to Sunny? Smash that subscribe button, leave a like, and let us know in the comments below. See you at the next one.